Hello, we're going to call this algebraic consciousness. This is how, most probably, demonstrably, the ancients revealed that the languages, the sounds of the languages, have an identity of relationship to themselves. They have an identity and have a shared identity, a grouped identity, and a together identity that are distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously value and values relationship to positive or negative, which is identity's identity of relationship to itself, which in nature is value as a relationship to what is positive or negative to its parts. There are proofs that we need dandelions, not just because they're yellow and the bees are yellow. That's because they like dandelions, bees. They need a diversity of things. They need the nature of soil. We pack up everything all that's clean. Shoot out all the things with poison, the dandelions. I wonder what's happened to the bees. Let's get some experts on that. Then they'll defend themselves. Then they'll defend the logic they're using to defend themselves. There's a modern language teacher named Dr. Shub who confessed and recorded on and off campuses to me. His roles with people also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated associated with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin, an investigator of the World Trade Center. See, he didn't use these words, but he's also involved with various natures of courts within his family, also with areas racketeering on and off campuses, with evidence racketeering, mail crimes, wire crimes, identity theft, frauds, evidence racketeering. But see, what I was going to say is about positive treatments with insidious natures of positive treatments. As a doctor of modern languages, Dr. Shu, associated with all the different foreign nations that need to make a peaceful in relationship to the identity of negative value nature progression humanity is in. Each modern nation's in a semi-ancient trap on top of a already tactically denatured base under that, all the soils. Grounds value actual value progression system, which is a differential relationship to what is positive to nature's complete identity of relationship to itself, and as what it makes this earth distinct and non-distinct simultaneously from the rest of space nature, which only the extent of it is debatable, which is what I'm about to say is the identity of forever, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that. It is it is demonstrably a radical of correlation, inseparable from five distinct identities of its volume from our perspective, where our volume is its one identity of volume that all things are at once, and the identity of relationship to it has to itself that is self-generating through that. So as the value of that. So it's one identity forever's. It's its identity of relationship to itself. And is the value of that is the Trinity. Now, but we're speaking about the identity of forever, not named. Forever is the name per science. Now, see, we have scientific consensus, scientific some process defended by the science, the identities of the sciences since ancient times themselves. Rolls with what kept and keeps, even homeschooled, since before our founding parents of modern nations were born. This set up victims only capable of reacting with time treatments all the same way now, about perfected means. They need to go home in relationship to where we have peaceful counters, solutions that are in collusion with that which originally still prevents free speech, forces others to be prevented pretended, even by the people hurt by it. So we don't give up the finite. Believe that. I have to check if there's a. I saw a clip somewhere. There are proofs that not one civil rights leader, all they're doing was no one knows how to speak for actual quality of fact, cheap in nature. And the reason, and everyone blamed other things other than themselves in relationship to the reactions needed and self value. This is a method that perfected self value. Everyone blaming things, having it had it blamed already. Everything on other things other than themselves. The real cause of negative value nature progressions, which nature is going to demonstrate the loss of our identity of value / value nature, quality of diffusion that's positive, also temporary lasting at the same time. Criminal insidiousness is proof that there can be treatments of positive by science that is not really positive. So I was going to explain this earlier about Dr. Shub, but then I got involved because this was also kind of tied to. It was also tied to World Trade Center attack. People associated with campuses he went to and worked at, like not just Trinity College, Yale University. Other and then like that's on and off the New Haven FBI. Now these people are involved with database racketeering, already having used careers as victim predators, other nations' equivalents, the same thing. These are identity, there's a law that are simultaneously delusions wrought intersciences, self-valued, and criminally foreign influenced victims, but victim predators. If you try to treat them as victims, they're offensively preventing that, so they can call our reactions pejorative, and they do that as sequence racketeering roles, as evidence racketeering roles, natures, needs, and styles. Therefore, more and more need to pretend other. So we have readings of the law, experts that are quoting precedents, that are quoting, making it as readings of statutes that are through criminal foreign influence and simultaneously juxtaposed with and as natures of that are pejorative and sequence racketeering, preventing demonstration of that. Only opinions to the furtherance. This is also how they use the ground flag that. While they've been offensively preventing mandated law, Connecticut interbranch, all tied to them, used to hide their lie progressions, even preemptively. I never had conversations with Debbie Gold in my life. I explained the one time we played dreidel with no problem. Year later, she came out of nowhere. And then again, when I was in 6th grade, out of nowhere, I never even saw her around school except for those 2 times, pretending twice. Real mad, pretending I did something or had any kind of conversation and even had her in my mind before that. Now, this is her father was a Gold, Mr. Mayor Gold. Now, this is relevant because he's associated with an Iowa family and with a whole bunch of people also on off Trinity College with his family and with the fire department next to there and with his sisters and his family associated also with a whole bunch of people on and off, like they have a business next to Buckley High School. People on and off Weathersfield High School associated with them, also with juxtaposed natures of racketeering act cover-up roles. Uses of them remotely. Uses of them also for Facebook recorded racketeering with a KNERR on Facebook, and uses of the New Britain Superior Court with them with crimes with a principal sex offender and with a whole bunch of people tied to those places with Jewel, and like with their treatments of the campus things, vaccines, because these courts are already involved with whole racketeering methods recorded. That like the method of pretending to believe that people have conspiracy theories by forging names and switching names to do that. Whole bunch of doctors involved with this, and ones with badges involved with stacking names of people that don't even know each other from their own town. All exceptions recorded criminally exploited. People don't even realize the extent of it themselves because of this. What's why we have to counter the courts, a whole bunch of courts at once that are recorded consciously knowing this because they involve their family members with this. The courts are criminally foreign influence distinctly and non-distinctly and simultaneously from the same thing that has the overt criminal enterprises and the private ones in collusion with them, down to sequentially and categorically timed crime acts. And as sequence shifts, roles, finite lies, as evidence racketeering lies roles, like with the Dillon family, with many, in my town's police chief and their family members, like an Anna Dillon, a Sean Dillon, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated also foreign and domestic military racketeering, identity thefts, roles with their family, people tied to them, like Schedule family. I never had a conversation with them in my life. Rob Schedule is also associated with a Mike DeMay and Adam DeMay and Eric Mendez, and I don't know his brother's name, on off Fox Connecticut News. They were involved with racketeering with Fox Connecticut News, with a whole bunch of police forms that tried to record things in the past, pretend they knew me, and that's as they exploited that through CCSU. This is right through administrations working with locations, areas, and states run by people involved with database racketeering originally, and still that was used to keep collusion with already was with the identity ground sick racketeering method worse than war crimes. I'm not a lawyer, not a police firm, not criminal, not military, vaccines. They even have the Connecticut gyms recorded how used. See, because now they're needing to lie when people speak about simple facts like that are true always. Now these are people, these are courts, these are police forms that already pretended to perceive. These are prosecutors or like judges already pretended to perceive people involved with the manipulations of juries, like a Dr. Zeman. I told the guy I don't want to have a communication. He made statements to me that he pretended I agree with him. He's involved with a Dr. Leahy, forged names, switched names. Before that, 3 times they committed a whole bunch of racketeering acts, roles to get with this Dillon family, and my new and past neighbors were involved with them. I don't even know if they don't understand the extent of it. I have to use their name on me. I barely know them. My past neighbors. I only know them in context with confessions related to this group with this Dillon family. Their roles with elderly homes and on off Trinity College with people that made confessions to me about their roles with their family with medical racketeering and tied on timely deaths. Also on Facebook, they also lied about that. Like a Rob Rodriguez, also Rob Rodriguez, also associated with logistics plays. Whole bunch of people associated with them with federal criminals that were co-defendants of former director of the FBI in a 2006 case, a district court case in Connecticut. Also has people involved with racketeering before that and before the Trade Center, and since with racketeering acts like switching officers' names that weren't even in the location, with a whole bunch of stacking falsified police reports into databases, pretending to make mistakes, forging and switching names, confessions of that as threats, the communication method here, forcing themselves into my house with no warrant. God knows they pretend I had no communication. They make confessions about their, and also racketeering acts roles with a Scalora family that also pretended to record conversation with me. One time he told me to look at a window. I never had one. If they must have taken a picture and make it look like that, because they also did that with people with a Paul Apted and with his sister. Whole bunch recorded, confessed, and demonstrated a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital, other hospitals involved with racketeering with the kids, with their patients and criminals involved with crimes with them before they were in there. And their patients involved. These are various natures of courts with database racketeering, forging names, switching names, pretending whole categorically fake conversations with people into databases that weren't even at all, not even more than a one word ever. And they lie about they forge names, switch names. They have the whole families involved with this. Then they pretend that because they need to pretend to have motions and passions and means to do things and reasons they do things that they didn't that weren't real and aren't real, so they can't explain them on paper. These are people involved with courts since I was a kid, making up involved with human trafficking, attaching people to fake locations. There's a whole bunch of people tied to a Robert Heimgartner recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. People with Hartford Hospital recorded, confessed, demonstrated, tied to them, involved with racketeering, with drugs, with untimely deaths. People associated with on and off Fox Connecticut News in the buildings next to them, involved with military racketeering, foreign and domestic, with racketeering with overt criminal enterprises juxtaposed, foreign and domestic medical, private other, like prisons cliques, involved with them with racketeering, also with the principal sex offenders campus and with the resource campuses and the identities of all the positions with the schools in town and out of intercities. Involved also with how this is each age of fact, cheap nature campus, each science of them is recorded how having been kept criminally foreign influenced. For example, various departments distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously involved with racketeering acts with houses on Church Street in my town, which leads and in the corner of and the house on the corner of Church Street and Main Street, associated with the acting department, associated with the English department, with a whole bunch of ways, with intercities police, with my town's police chief, and retired and standing like this, Kevin Dillon, and with Anna Dillon, Sean Dillon, and the people involved with the drug cliques and sexual circles that they use in my area involved with identity thefts. You don't see people in the suburbs. You see them for a second, you won't walk by them. There's no words. They're going to put words on you. That's what happens when you have originally and still criminally foreign influence, age, location, area, and state. Now that can't be defended, and what was forced. We have to tell our American history. Our American history is not about that theater that was is forced glorified through criminal foreign influences, juxtaposed with physical delusions and with exploitations of that. They don't know how to react to one thing, but as rolls with the furtherance of it, and already invested criminal uses of each case, originally and still. Worse than witch trials. There are sequence racketeering cover-up natures using treatments of the president, pretending that the various natures of courts and branches positions all the way up aren't recorded in their family members how having been used criminally, like with a whole bunch of people on and off Two Rod Highway, the location on off there, on and off Hangdog Lane, further involved with child offenders. And that's right tied to the Berlin Turnpike note before the heart of Hartford, at those three spots at the end of it. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, also involved with state police, various ways involved with racketeering on off Trinity College, on off CCSU, on off Wesleyan, on off UConn, on off foreign campuses, in collusion. They're going to hurt each other's identity if anything bad happens. And bad things happen, then they do that. They sanction them. They do that. And that locks them more and more and more incapable of doing anything but self-valuing their roles with logic racketeering. We have justice departments, nations individually grouped together, delusions wrought at the same time while they have criminally foreign influence premises treatments of sequence quality. Now, we need science, we need free speech, but we don't have it. And we have them offensively pretending to be about free speech and wanting to debate and needing to debate with and as the only allowed. They simultaneously admit, and then they'll quote themselves, oh, see, well, I said it's no good to have that much time. That's all we have. We'll all have the problem together. But they're all. That's why we have that problem together, because no one's following mandatory law. They're only fighting to keep their uses of titles, their uses of their identities criminally foreign influenced identities of we're in an identity of negative value nature progression may effectively maintained by what came from some ancient times since before modern nations messengers. Thank thank God for them. I think that means I think it's most scientifically probable that that's what the identity of all things, the identity of forever, of that what is actually true always and has exceptions in demonstration of itself at the same time. I just remind, boxings, knock knock. It says Romulus. This is Romulus science. See, Romulus and Remus are about where and how the physical male is alone. But how where and how yin yang is inseparable and only gains. History and Herstory don't juxtapose. And they're with the phenomenon of value G, which is the same thing, which is as all space slash existence. Existence and space come with that slash as an identity they share, and as one with value going out and value coming in simultaneously. That is increasing the value of space while the value of space is going out into existence. And what is coming out of temporary slash lasting, more forever nature. Existence is also having value transfer out into that identity they share, which is still not complete. It is still with two identities of sequence nature before and beyond that, beyond that two ways, beyond that bigger than big and smaller than small, smaller than the order of the small can fit as small, bigger than the order of the big can fit as big, while being the identity that is together, while being the value of that further, because its complete nature is making more and more of itself that is positive or negative onto itself. Most of the positive that is, it's only going to stay more and more that. So we are toward. It's already a complete nature, but it's making a little bit more of its complete identity by what is also simultaneously making a more and more positive or negative relationship to itself, which is these three identities of volume simultaneously. So we have the male, the female, and we have kids coming in and parents going out. Because that's the identity that's his identity of relationship to itself, and that's the value of that. Forever nature making more forever nature. But per its value nature system, per its identity of correlation in relationship to it as itself, the radical of correlation that leads all sciences, the identity they share differentially. This is the hierarchy of identity. This is the hierarchy of sequence nature. So it pushes space out while it fills it in with its own increased value from that. Simultaneously. We'll examine this. This is a simultaneous nature that is a radical to correlation nature. This is the identity of relativity per science, not per theory. This is volume science. This is where metaphysics is a nature of volume. Per science, per its needs to communicate with it about that way, to communicate with it conceived that way as to this variable system that is the identity that ratiocination and that pseudo ratiocination share. and and sharing the identity of the two identities sequence nature beyond us, but still in our control through its identity of relationship to itself. We'll examine this. How it is semi-natures three ways in our as humanity, individual, grouped, and species. How it is that is in physics, but that identity of physics is also increasing. That identity slash S is R slash R increasing metaphysical identity simultaneously. Simultaneously, the identity this makes complete, where there's a third nature of volume there. These are five invisible but still discernible identities of volume, identities of sequence nature. The cell nucleus, the cell body, the cell wall. These are three identities of sequence nature, physically manifest. On both sides of them, not only are there other cells sharing the cell wall, but there are identities of sequence nature. You say, well, a circle only has one side, but the sequence nature of value they were before they were, and the sequence nature that is that is the value of them as they while it progresses completely. One identity of value progression is coming to, from, as, with, and for all things as itself. But it's coming for all things distinctly and non-distinctly in relationship to Earth, because we are closest to the greatest inherent nature of volume. Now, as we spread more Leith of Hades ourself out to outer space, the Earth's value to outer space, the value of the identity of our visible but still discernible identity, our energy's course, this way, the way of things, Sings. This is how to fight, but all win. That's what the ancients knew how to do, and they loved it because they know how to cause evolution's fruits and gifts by valuing each language individually, grouped, and together, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, with a method of correlation nature that needs prayer as a scientific value, which is a contemplation, which is the perfection of that contemplation and the method to it, the time to it. So now we have instead contemplation to adaptation, how to make positive out with and as negative, not how to make positive out of negative per its system, how to make positive semi-nature that can't defend itself in relationship to correlation nature's means to demonstrate it as an identity of negative value nature progression roles. You could discern how, like just with color treatments, black or white, Native American. Not anyone has given any serious or allowed any serious discussion or any honesty regarding the recorded dishonest, left, forced, not talked about, and self-valued slavery roles. That wasn't, and they even have it, our education, so long, so sickly, criminally foreign influence, they have people thinking our founders put slavery in. They don't understand American history right up front, basic. They had forced speech. They were forced to be a nature of theater as criminal insidious nature, as everyone was, of victims, but victim predators blaming other things other than themselves. Using crime methods, everyone talks about this. They look, they saying they think everyone's bad. Now you're having a conversation about nonsense, about people's physical delusions, with aggressions like that, making other, they're preventing free speech. These are also people doing that offensively, pretending. So when people try to talk about it, they think that that's what they're talking about. It makes it sound like they had a conversation with people that never were, that never was. This is also how they have the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and interbranch and collusion, and military. Self-valued roles with a breaching racketeering method way worse than that. Not lawyer, not police former, not criminal. That's American history is about. Way worse than war crimes. Little simple racketeering method using human fact sheet nature. Sequence racketeering. I mean, people make the stupidest statements. You say, well, if people are going to have to make counter stupid statements. But then you know what happens? The sequence racketeering self-value. It's because no one's getting, no one's being able to counter what has everyone to collusion with interbranch originally and still kept each location, area, and state criminally foreign influenced. They have to speak about things that happen in the world. They have to act into that world. Hundreds of nations are going to keep acting as a negative value nature, identity of negative value nature progression, acts in nature, self-valued, because that's all that was ever told to them to glorify. That was only allowed. Because this is fluent through our nations, because this is even before the foundation of modern nations. This tactically denatured earth, this tactically denatured human education, knowing that nature itself would demonstrate the loss of its zenith peak. All other peaks, nature itself demonstrates negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Standing criminal insidious natures of positive treatments and uses of that. So people, the state judicial branch offices in my town, all along that route through cities, they already involve people with offensive evidence reception racketeering. Originally and still, that's what that's called when you're entertaining, not serious enough, which has never been, and what they call serious is sick, like the counter, as the weapon of our enemy. The counter sick, that's only allowed to be the victim, but a victim predator. Forgiveness is not to give up, not to counter to. Forgiveness is to show how what's countering is in collusion. Cold as day, caught here and there. They can't defend themselves. They have pretend. How can we have a free election when the people were lied to and they have fake sides? They have fake alternatives. Because how could they do that? Because they have each location, area, and state originally and still never liberated what our founders left us to do with free speech, because we only had people to collusion with this racketeering method, where the only sophistication is going to be the people that are already in collusion with this, already having used jails, already having used the campuses in conjunction with them, and the people who report on that stuff already in collusion with those people, with database racketeering further and further, deeper and deeper, to roles with and as uses of all identity ground locations, areas, and states, let alone then everything contained, everyone, even their own families, even though they do it to help them. Because that's what the breaching racketeering uses, their identity, each branch. It's identity down to its finite individual grouped and together, male and female. That's a value that legal value nature treatments didn't let have sophistication, because they have needs to keep hiding light progressions. So then you have needs to keep using their identity ground locations as weapons. Also, where they can use that to influence interactions to further exploitation of what is maintained from off campuses originally and still perfected database racketeering that juxtaposes other nature's motivations, nature needs, interests, sequence racketeering as the only people allowed to be counters of that, to perpetually having kept and keeping originally and still each location, area, and state criminally foreign influence. George Washington came to Wethersfield, Connecticut, in between New York and Boston before the last battle of the Revolutionary War, having had to could only secure semi-counter extortion of that left entrenched with overt laws crazy against everyone, and with color in the North, slavery. Color because then for now. So they left out the rest of the slavery rules against everyone. Natures of it, motivations, nature getting hurt by distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously, sickly, so everyone wouldn't be able to discern. Everyone would value, not discern, how sickly, non-distinctly, how sickly, simultaneously, when all we have to do is realize that. And we set up the system, the value progression systems that reveal evolution's fruits and gifts from nowhere means. So we have criminally foreign influence zoning laws here throughout modern nations, not by accident. Those involved with the fact, cheap nature, torture, and slavery are our founders. We have people starting fights with physical delusions juxtaposed. If you even mention simple things like our founders didn't have free speech. Oh, what do you mean they didn't? It's that simple. They did not have free speech a lot of ways. Then that's all connected. Not only did they not have free speech, they were forced to entertain people blaming and having blamed on other things other than themselves. They're going to go fight about how many, this was already entrenched here. Everyone was already guilty against all kinds of things against each other, blaming blaming on other things other than themselves. Everyone, all sick knaves, standing criminal and ceaseless nature. What do you think it's like when you have those sick laws? With a fake justice standing, pretending other, breaching screens. That's what was in those other nations too. We have psychology, delusions wrought. Your identity of negative value, nature progression, self-value. You only know you speak about sciences as victims and child abuse. Uses of the name. What's his name? The theory of relativity. Offensively blocking, worse than obfuscated, used to worse than obfuscate the identity of relativity, which the identity of forever is. 5 per science, not even asking faith, 5 bonded identities of sequence nature that are increasing. The value of what is male and female is increasing simultaneously, positive or negative, in relationship to this identity's identity of relationship to itself, which is a method and nature of science that these are totally other value nature systems from. These are standing criminal and ceaseless natures of positive. So this Dr. Shub is also with a whole bunch of people from Wethersfield into Branch, and all tied to them private, that were invested to roles with CCSU, a whole bunch of people tied to a Cuddy family. I never had a conversation with the Cuddy brothers, never had a class with them. Like also tied to Alina's Pizza, foreign and domestic military, on off CCSU, on off Trinity College, used racketeering roles with FBI, CIA, judges, prosecutors involved, political families. Also, how this has kept the outcome through families, the ones involved, like a whole bunch of people tied to an ILO family with Facebook racketeering, with the police with the Facebook pages of New Britain Superior Court, with the Facebook pages of the campuses involved with them, even with child sexual offender roles, worse than the principal sex offender, them then forced it off campus anyway, especially if they made that up, because they hid confessions and actually recorded things with wire crimes. Also, that the CIA and the FBI have. They also had me in fake conversations about the FBI and the CIA. And then they spread rumors about me, fake conversations with doctors that forged names and pretended I talked to them about the FBI and the CIA. And I don't even know anyone in the CIA until they said on Facebook after, too. I mean, I let them all speak, too. They didn't repeat what I said because I let them all. I watched people speaking like they were pretending they knew me in a pattern with the people that, like, as people that know that all with a pattern all to the same house slash s associated with both, with racketeering with both sides of the principal sex offender then, while at the same time with other people on the sex offender registry and their family members involved with them with racketeering with all kinds of places on and off CSU, on and off Trinity College. Now, these are also people with various departments at CCSU, like the educational department, involved with racketeering with the Gallucci family. I don't know them. That this is where racketeering their roles with people from my town involved with FBI and with CIA, with the House in my area, with judges and with prosecutors with them since I was a kid. Then with database racketeering, everyone's forced to speak through everyone, and they keep attaching everyone to fake words, fake sequence relationships, fake locations. They did this with WFSB, with people also. Like there was a girl recorded real or made up who was dragged to her death, which is at a place near the end of the Berlin Turnpike, which are people associated with Mark Violet and Mike Violet, associated with that girl and with the Delafair family and with the Kerr family and with two Mendez police that are also crimes with police equipment inside, outside of New Britain Superior Court racketeering with people associated with my house in my area with them. They're involved. I never had anything to do with them growing up. They're involved with people with human trafficking, with their evidence racketeering, database racketeering with kids. Their crimes with drug crimes, dealing and stuff like that they know about through the resource officers. We have their programs on undercover and stuff, but they also have what they don't realize with that and how it's sustained now, and so many people recorded confessed tied to this former Mayor Gold and other retired and standing ones and things like that, interbranch, higher and lower, involved with this through time. You know, fake things in the databases and uses of that and roles with uses of that. See, this has roles when you make those stupid things like, I mean, not stupid, worse than this is like evil, insidiously knave, and overtly knave uses of radical correlation when they call it radical Islam. That's in collusion with what is preventing also the first part of the Old Testament. That is in collusion also with preventing recorded uses of each of these identity ground locations insidiously as their positive treatments and their roles also with offensive evidence racketeering and in fact cheating nature quality and self-value roles with that, because that's where these are people, a whole bunch of people from Weathersfield. I don't even know the names of. I just since I was in grammar school. Then there's only 2 years long, middle school. And you don't see the people that are there. You don't even know half the people in your grade the way they do this. because they pretend people with titles have integrity with passions and emotions dishonestly, forging names, switching names, all kinds of criminally foreign influence roles and usage of them in relationship to sanctions treatments already having value, needing to pretend other, not by accident. That's kept the outcome by the fake sides, right through and through them. So we have a there's a web school in Weathersfield too, on and off the middle school, further involved with judges and with doctors, foreign and domestic, people with badges, further involved with the house slash S in my area, further involved with the principal sex offenders campus with them, and with the Joshua Julian with racketeering with them through time with overt criminal enterprises and people associated with the former director of the FBI, other nations associated with the house in my area. I never saw in my area. He said that it was that he saw the inside of my garage. And he's also said on the he was on the Facebook page of the principal sex offenders campus and rolls with prosecutors with their kids with that, and a woman named O'Neill. And they also have recorded needs to have fights between people now because they exploit that in relationship to what they've been using the middle school for. There's also a Thomas Potter and our people associated with the commercials on all the networks. These are identity the ground locations of recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with database racketeering that is kept used more and more their self-valued roles, keeping the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures with areas blamed on other causes, other things, and other on selves. And that was exploited because that defending that and having defended that precedents and statutes itself, it's self-valued, weaponized, preventing logic's course, the way of things, with integrity. So we have the science of morality. We have the associate each of the sciences criminally foreign influence uses of them and those identity the ground locations on off campuses rolls with what they were kept were are effectively recorded kept originally and still works than rich trials. Crime methods distinct and non-distinct from the other branches. Crime nature is actually recorded as criminal and serious nature self-valued, pretending it's legal, but they know actually it's recorded criminally foreign influence, but they can't explain it because they're already everyone's distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously having blamed on other things other than themselves, already having involved their family members in it. This is an offensive evidence reception racketeering, how already having used self-value, the identity, the ground, value treatments, means treatments, agreements, what they call treaties, what they call, I mean, what they call allies, what they call enemies. These are all ulterior from what is really our point being a difference individually grouped and together in the first place. Free speech. So we have collusion. This is how they keep our governments over here defending identities. Blind sacrifice and preventing mandated law from demonstrating it per the uses of blind nonsense, in other words, integrity of sciences that they know are from off campuses, recorded, maintained on and off campuses and layers further and further through time. Each age of campus, each age of each nature of it, maintained in collusion against each age of each age of fact nature's correlation nature. For all that originally and still sick knave that has a relationship to the means by the correlation nature of each age. They instead have affected simultaneously short-term, long-term, and medium-term racketeering acts methods and roles forced to fake passions and emotions more and more. This is where they keep the minority originally and still more and more. More layers, the minority keeps the whole thing knave. All those layers through motivation, interest, other. than what really keeps it. So all that I have that just standing there, needing to value that. Oh, it's money, it's this, it's that. Its quality, effect, human nature that left free speech forsaken. So you left humanity forsaken. So you left the right not to be tortured forsaken. So that you left the right not to demonstrate to people who that pretended we needed torture in collusion with the people. That force that needed reacted to. And through what is worse, that archetypal to this semi-ancient identity of negative value nature progression effectively having been and being maintained to maintain collusion through other natures of racketeering bonded to and as standing life progression cover up natures and life progressions till each spot right back to the identity of the ground sickest one of all, only capable of being countered through treatments uses of evidence racketeering as its evidence it is, preventing mandated law, readings of statutes that are criminally hiding what they've been doing with the databases, what they've been doing with their identities as gang members, valuing the contrast of really sick victim, predator, overt criminal enterprises so that they can have a contrast to pretend they're not sick themselves way more other ways against everyone. Each age. If you think of it, these are people with uses of elderly homes on a mass scale, you just the uses of the infrastructure. This is since before cars, forced with the fact, cheap nature, torture, and slavery of our founders, and we're supposed to glorify this. They need us to what defends that needs to pretend have debate. Oh well, let's debate it. It's about money, I think. Let's see what other opinions are out there. Follow the sequence shifts. Follow the physical delusions. Interscience is self-valued. Now we have retired and standing police chiefs being coached as victims to use the identity of the word police through and as criminal foreign influenced. They're pretending that people from Hartford don't like, or they don't like, they're lying about the sensibilities of them in relationship to other people because of their sequence racketeering with them. Their roles with UPS, with people from my town since I was a kid. It's before I went to work there. Their roles with Trinity College and CCSU. Whole bunch of people tied to former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his lawyer, Robert Chevrolet, involved with my neighbors over here, involved with racketeering acts, roles with on and off CCSU, on and off Trinity College, with a whole bunch of people with the courts involved with them criminally, leading up to the Trade Center attack in the track, and then immediately up before it, in the context, and since with the investigators too, involved with the racketeering acts to hide that against me, other whole bunch of people, doctors pretending they had conversations with me, never were, forging names, switching names, whole bunch of people on and off Fox Connecticut News, in conjunction with that, who've been pretending lies with them as police forms, crimes with child sex offenders, also police forms like two Mendez brothers on and off Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, Connecticut, the buildings next to them, with two Domains brothers also involved with them, on and off in the Britain Superior Court, the two Mendez police, involved with on and off Weathersfield Police Department, their roles with racketeering, interbranch, drug cliques, sexual circles, identity thefts, human trafficking acts, also with WFSB, involved with starting these fights, pretending because they need to pretend they need to pretend there were conversations, communications between people in the past that never were. So I never had a conversation with Debbie Gold. Those two times she attacked me out of nowhere, times. Now, and when I was in grammar school, that's the grammar school the principal sex offenders at now. I mean, that they were roles with then when they didn't allow it told on. When you try to call up, they have the prosecutors, they have the police chief, They have FBI, CIA, military already involved with it, with their kids already involved with sexual, medical, judicial racketeering, uses of Facebook involved with them, spreading lies with overt criminal enterprises right on the Facebook page of a grammar school with a Joshua Julian. Also, the Coast Guard involved with this. Navy involved with the families involved further with forensics locations, state police, with the house in my area with the new years ago, and the one through time police chief, and the one years ago before that with the same house involved also with this Phil Colo recorded confessed demonstrated by Bob Chase involved with them, also with the Dr. Graham, a woman doctor, that recorded with physical delusions and with evidence of racketeering with New Britain Superior Court and with child sex offenders, proven since and further recorded and confessed involved with them. They're also involved with racketeering with various juxtaposed natures of overt criminal enterprises and the witness protection programs, criminal uses of them on the street too, like with a officer Jerry Miller on Facebook too. Also recorded, confessed, demonstrated involved with wire crimes and crime roles with FBI in the area. Foreign and domestic military in the area involved crimes with KKK themed, Confederate flag themed crimes, men involved with sexual circles, with database racketeering, identity theft clicks, all exceptions to knowing people pretended other criminally with the strangers like this Joshua Julian and this Joshua Schumack and Joshua Stryker. Joshua Stryker recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with people at Trinity College involved with racketeering with judges and prosecutors on and off Goodwin Park golf course. People involved with identity racketeering, thefts, frauds, having acted to pretend like I know a Fred Grisey, who I barely know of. And that's involved. I recorded them, my school, having been used by judges and by prosecutors and by victims' advocates. Recorded through time involved with juxtaposed natures of racketeering uses of the campuses in my town and of the schoolhouses next to them, of businesses next to them, the family members of them. They even have time criminal uses of ad companies with family members involved and with themselves involved with racketeering with those same WFSB attached me to fake words, fake locations, fake ties to others, fake natures of ties to others, sequence shifts. They did all that and worse, and they did it to my family too. And they did it with judges at the same time, with states attorneys, foreign and domestic overt criminal enterprises. That's what's in the area recorded actually. They also recorded lie about such. And they pretend people are making conspiracy theories. Because they're doing that in the background too with judges and with doctors forging names, switching names, faking conversations with people. Now we have the whole family members of those judges, like associated with as a Delafair family, involved with women, FBI, CIA, with further on and off the campuses of each age and nature in my camp and my town through time, with a method they recorded involved with line progressions, not just of branches, but how tied to how they covered it up against each age, with their uses of CCSU, with their uses of UConn, with their uses of Wesleyan. Now, these are people associated with criminal justice where they have the conjunction with they're locking people in prisons. They're pretending to be in credibility in relationship to that. They are in collusion with the racketeering on the with all that hurt. Sandy Hook, that wasn't just Adam Lanza alone involved. And those are people effectively using remote the victims of these things. Roles with people with Sandy Hook, Newtown, involved with the child sex offenders, child abuses, bonded natures of it on my street as groups. Now these are people who value, subjects part of it that are inseparable for their roles with sequence racketeering. per their roles with this, but how recorded, motivated, bonded natures of racketeering, evidence racketeering with this Iowa family, trying to, because they make problems they want to put to solve in courts that are already recorded criminally foreign influence, already recorded with various natures of racketeering uses way worse than racketeering, worse than war crimes on off the state judicial branch offices, uses of people with color involved where they make fake sides of value treatments, where they extend people not allowed to have free speech by stacking database racketeering acts roles, lies about behavior, lies about the counters to their real sick behavior with the kids. These people are real sick. They're hurting kids. Then they're hurting the ones that are with responses to it. Sustained. You have to understand how now there even kindergartens. There's a Harris family. The mother of a Kevin Harris is associated with his ex girlfriend, and she's reportedly or apparently married to and connected anyways to a whole bunch of people associated with a Bellucci family, which is Johnny Duke. They call the dinosaur of boxing from USA Boxing, amateur boxing guy. He's associated with like Willie Pep, like old school people. Apparently, he's dead now. But his house is on Zion Street, right next to Trinity College, which is right down the street from these three locations involved with state police, involved with racketeering uses of Trinity College with the FBI also, and their uses of and exploitations of how they have on-campus police and then have parts off campus for fact-cheating nature racketeering. Now they're maintaining in criminal city natures of positive treatment, indifference natures, perfect world valued, prevented through criminal foreign influence and roles pretending other natures of people, not naturally unfolding. We have all locations, areas, and states, leaderships, criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought simultaneously. We have this nature of opinion nature that is offensively pejorative, violent, sick, and pretending to be against it, preventing people calm means to counter the wire crime acts and methods, the mail crime acts and methods of judges and of prosecutors, originally and still real sick, also with uses of their on off campuses locations and all the identities of the ground there in collusion. It's nothing personal. These are people that are recorded spreading lies about people because these are people that used all the buildings around down to clubs next to Yale College, Yale University, next to downtown Hartford, Fox Connecticut News, the buildings next to them involved with child offenders of juxtaposed natures and uses of them, like these two Mendez police, involved with a whole bunch of people like an Anthony Agman, a Joshua Julian, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with racketeering with people around the corner of the Samuel Dix house, all along that route from Old Weathersfield, Church Street, corner Main to CCSU. Church Street, corner Main to that spot, Samuel Dix house, on Wells Road, all the way up to CCSU through Newington, all the way along there. People are involved with racketeering with our states, our locations, areas, and states through this method that has everyone speaking through other criminally, has them pretending to be readings of the law, legitimate originally and still, like sick, just like the overt criminal enterprises, really sick crime acts and natures, real knaves, reactions, because of their child abused, criminally foreign influenced educations. So respond to mandated law for them because they have wire crime methods where they lie about what is actually recorded over the phones, online, with the media. and the media has recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with a whole bunch of different people I don't know the names of, with making fake Facebook pages pretending to be me, fake YouTube pages pretending to be me, uses of the Wethersfield Police Department's Facebook page, of New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page for crimes with child sex offenders, before that was proven, and since further now, worse than they were even put in jail for and on the sex offenders registry for. Uses of their family members for worse than that, too. You know, these are all people involved, victims of what former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, is involved with, too. Uses of Ocasio Cortez, uses of Congress itself with Mueller and Comey, involved with sequence racketeering, uses of that, their roles with World Trade Center crimes, media that's stealing the identities, racketeering acts against American citizens just so they could hide their roles that they had with the Trade Center attack through other natures of racketeering, motivations handed to them by the proverbial devil. This method that American history is really about. So there were a whole bunch of people associated with the family members of the victims also recorded having been involved with this, everyone speaking through others having been used criminally, and by people on off the state judicial branch offices involved with racketeering with black families, interbranch, with all white and black, racketeering with also their crime predators with Confederate flag, KKK themed, child abusers, even sexual, involved with them with crimes online and in my area with proven on and off campuses child sex offender leaders that they also have around their kids roles with them. Now these are people that have to pretend other with passions and emotions, recorded dishonest and delusions wrought simultaneously, offensive weapons that demonstrate this. So we have to be able to counter this peacefully. They also lie about reactions where we have needs to be aggressive and because of their these are also their time treatments. They have my new and past neighbors recorded, confessed, and demonstrated being coached to cover up lie progressions from people from judges and prosecutors involved with houses with racketeering in my area with foreign and domestic medical racketeering. The Eastern States Narcotic Drugs Task Force, also involved with drugs racketeering, military police, and people that work with the prisons and stuff like that, on and off the CCSU training them, involved with CIA, with FBI, like with the Scalera family, a whole bunch of people with a DeMauro family, a Kerr family, associated with racketeering uses of the World Trade Center leading up to it and after it, uses of CCNN, uses of CCSU with people with this, uses of sense and sensibilities of people as standing criminal and seditious nature, positive value treatments. They need to pretend passion and emotion behind people's back. They pretend people don't listen. They repeat things like that to imply things. They're not listening. And what they want people to listen to is sicker and sicker. Don't pretend we had a conversation with me too. Deal with simple facts and listen. Because these titles are worthless. Then that's where they have the success. Oh, well, see, I'm successful and I'm black. This is an identity ground that left forsaken a whole bunch of humanity. Not because of their color, because the quality of fact, human nature never left free speech and science at the same time. So they had science criminally foreign influenced. Then they're going to pretend it's just rhetoric. They're going to pretend that people can't discern each identity of knowledge, each identity of science, delusions wrought, uses of that fake positive as criminal seditious nature. Whereas and how we have this radical of correlation nature. Volume theory is put offensive with delusions. To have sense and sensibility is of people that are used for identity racketeering, where they keep the only allowed natures of politicians to unfold criminally foreign influence, so they're not going to be able to be successful. They can't even defend themselves if they want to be true. We don't have free speech. They won't even let people use logic correlation proper. They have physical delusions with psychologists. Various natures of courts involve racketeering methods with them, forging names, switching names, whole categorically fake conversations in databases because they're family members, the family members of people tied to them, already having kept needing to hide the same lies personally, grouped, and together. Needed to we have a guy named Judge Killian, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated a whole bunch of racketeering with child sex offenders, like a principal sex offender, and with a Dr. Brendan Leahy, and with other judges of various natures of courts and prosecutors. Now, see, we need to get people onto paper because they have racketeering acts and methods where they pretend themselves recording things out of sequence. They have racketeering uses of lawyers in the bar itself, recorded criminally foreign influence, delusions raw, originally still exploited that way, self-valued exploited that way, while we had still hear many pray, vaccines, awake. So I have rights to the Attorney General now. And he has obligations that, like the obligations of our presidents, are forbid them from being fulfilled. And they handed them, and they keep things like ISIS, things like the World Trade Center attack, here and there, to keep each location, area, and state standing live progression, cover up nature, styles of logic racketeering, styles of sequence racketeering. That prevents what was already revealed by the ancients from even being spoke now. Integrity of logic, true. Vaccines. We have identities of the religions. Try to speak about actual sequence. Try to report something to them. Oh, but we don't know you. How we know? So we just deal with reality. Then they make opinions about people with sick delusions. That's why you have to refer to them as sick people, because they don't want to use sequence true. They have sense and sensibilities only allowed offensively, pretended value by them. Sickly. Comes time to have a conversation about sequence shifts, racketeering of their friends into branch with child crimes. The religious cliques. They're not going to do it. They're going to make opinions about you with physical delusions, with criminal foreign influence, in collusion with people that are faking complete conversations. Then no one else is capable of having a regular conversation. Then they're going to pretend other people, or look at you, yelling. I asked you 50,000 motherfucking times to respond to simple fucking things, motherfucker. Pick one. Pick one fucking branch. Who fucking denies this? Have them pick one fucking name in sequence, two motherfuckers, because they forged names and switched names. Again, with child offenders, with uses of rare areas, racketeering with them, with overt criminal enterprises through time. Then we have to pretend we're integrity because hundreds of nations at once are fighting about the details of the finite. That's why we're entrenched with the Russians here. Common sense. We have nations with sick nuclear weapons. That's why Pakistan is in collusion with them also with Town Line Drive. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. With private companies like Mobile, involved with them racketeering with the Morrow family, with Interbranch, with this former Mayor Gold, this Iowa family, People on IO family also recorded, confessed, demonstrated involved with the Bellucci family. Whole bunch of people at CCSU and Trinity College involved with them with racketeering with fire departments, like the fire department next to Trinity College too. These are people involved with crimes with overt criminal enterprises like Los Salitos, involved with them with database racketeering with the kids' campuses. Like when I was in high school, they recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved my healthcare class and my principals to racketeering with the Los Salitos and with a Fred Gruzet. I found out recently that's his roles with doctors and with Weathersfield police chief and with prosecutors with their kids further then and now with the principal sex offenders campus. They use the former mayor Gold. God knows what they told him with their physical delusions and fake recorded things in the databases when they were forcing the principal sex offender. They use their former governor Malloy for this. They have former retired and standing mayors involved with this. They go to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is involved with this tons of ways. Who prays? They pretend people have conspiracy theories in Russia. People have conspiracy theories here. They have mental diagnosis. They forge names and switch names to stick on people. A whole bunch of people associated um, with Church Street in Old Weathersfield, all the way up to on and off Paul Manafort Drive, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the intelligence community, like a Gerger or something like that. All those people associated with CNN, with Fox Connecticut News, making conspiracy theories and racketeering acts against citizens like myself, like my family and people tied to them. Sustained sequence racketeering. They're covering up their roles racketeering, covering up live aggressions, racketeering uses of areas, way worse than racketeering, worse than war crimes, since before the Trade Center attack, regardless of their motivations and of their motivations, of their intent. They have uses of words like intent of motivations with the sequence racketeering left out, with their evidence racketeering left out, with their database racketeering left out, with their racketeering uses of the illusions for their uses of private school kids in collusion with the people from your town that pretend to know you, with interbranch family members racketeering left out. Their roles with racketeering uses of depositions, fake signs of body of value treatments, fact cheating nature, their uses of offensively pretending to be about facts criminally to hide criminal foreign influence, breaching screens, talking about. These are identities. They have mosque locations, Franklin Avenue, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. A whole bunch of people tied to a Kerr family, into a Scalora family. Also, Officer Magnanos with recorded, confessed, and demonstrated racketeering with people associated with the FBI, associated with him, Stephen Manos, and he said that he recorded, confessed, and demonstrated his use of his word, his name Magnanos, and a family member of his associated with CCSU too. Their family members of these police forms associated with a detective Samuda that switched identities with him, and with Weathersfield officers that also did the same thing, falsified police reports, criminal uses of inside and outside New Britain Superior Court with child sex offenders, with these two Mendez police, inside or outside of the Weathersfield Police Department, roles racketeering with women doctors and their family members, foreign and domestic, also with child sex offenders, sexual circles, where the victims of recorded, confessed to me and other my family people involved with. Then these are also people that made those confessions. They pretended to know me to my criminally, and people all exceptions used criminally, like a Heather Hansen, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with various natures of courts, involved with various natures of criminal uses of real estate companies that has nothing to do with real estate. Like the people like Lena's Pizza is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a Daryl Sullivan, with a whole bunch of people like a Cuddy family involved with racketeering with doctors, with regular drug crimes, and with private drug crimes, interstates with them, also with Florida. Whereas the people on and off the grammar schools and on and off the houses and businesses next to schools with connections and with recorded criminal uses of those connections through time. A whole bunch of people at Trinity College recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with evidence racketeering from off campuses, on off campuses, investigators associated, military associated with Dr. Shu, also involved with judges, courts, and with his family and their kids with the evidence racketeering on off campuses. Criminal use areas pretend to record things. They pretend to perceive things later out of sequence, making things up, having people decide things wrong purposely, originally, and still that's what's recorded. Now we have to be able to report things. So we have to correct the news. They have corrections. They have word racketeering. We have delusions, wrought, criminally foreign influence sciences, each of them recorded from off campuses, maintain each age of fact cheating nature, maintain criminally foreign influenced uses of that. Whole bunch of people on off two-route highways, Hangdog Lane involved with sequence racketeering. Pretend they knew me earlier than they did. Pretend they knew me in locations and contexts they never were. I don't even know if they know it all because of Detective Dylan and a whole bunch of people tied to him on and off two-route highway, on and off CCSU, also involved with racketeering uses of radio. People associated with Mr. Biden, with the uses of the Obama administration, which can't defend itself as pretended integrity and afford to have correlation with free speech and the topic of slavery addressed properly and with sequence true. Now that's not by accident. That's not the Barack Obama's a better man in me a lot of ways. But see, I'm just going by this. Right here, I'm right. Everyone else is wrong. You guys are involved preventing mandated law, period. You guys are involved with hiding it by hiding your roles, self-valued with database racketeering, period. Who disbelieves? Pick one name and secrets. Get out the paper now. Let's go. Stop lying about my online when I speak. Stop pretending you had a conversation with me with doctors. They have people influencing people online. Oh, you better take some medication. That's all I hear. That's what those are things people say to force the worst. I couldn't believe people when I heard that a church would get behind forcing sustained, not told on child abuses, 3 years. I'll show you how that's recorded, motivated by them. They're pretending mandated law means ask the guy next to you. These are interbranch, real sick originally and still. Psychology, delusions, raw. They got badges with that. Let them speak. They want to pretend they're a cop. That's not an identity. Humanity is this identity that's individual grouped together. These fake identities. Because they want that to be, that's never liberated. They're involved, criminally foreign influence. Or then why don't you come do it? Because the whole fucking thing's set up, motherfucker. I've been asking since I was a fucking kid for a response to these motherfuckers. Then they fucking prevent it and they keep fucking talking. They're fucking attaching little kids to fake comprehensions, fake conversations, fake sequence relationships to others. Even fake locations. They're using the databases of each age of campuses sickly and each private ones. This is before computers. Now, those two are involved before they go to those locations. They have what they call the algorithm. The algorithms of well, this is how we deal with the AI technology. We have premises, treatments, criminally foreign influence, delusions, rot. They can't defend themselves. Oh, well, it's just business. You know, that's life. It's not a perfect world. Okay, that's all right. Have your opinions. And maybe I didn't want to have a debate, whatever. But when it comes, don't pretend those opinions when someone's needed to demonstrate how actual science is prevented by sick fakes, and that's having been and being exploited. Pretend we have an identity of military that wasn't criminally foreign influence originally. Still, these people are with psychology, with the standing. Look at the VA. It was built as a pathology you can't defend and us at the same time. You can't defend what they have for elderly homes. You can't defend. So how are they going to do it? They have all. Well, this is when the food comes out. All kinds of bonded, perfected, torture, self-value, because everyone has to pretend they're not roles knaves with it, because they wouldn't have the job if they didn't. Not by accident. Each location, area, and state is employed. Criminally foreign influence breaching tools, screens, and worse than weapons alone. Vaccines! So get them onto paper and get them to stop lying about my YouTube, about my words. WFSB, Fox Connecticut News. They are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. Also with WTNH, with racketeering uses of interbranch families and of each age of fact treating nature in my town, locations in my town, each location in my town, each area, and each state through this. These are people with California, with Florida, with Maine, with Vermont involved, with Rhode Island involved with them, recorded, confessed, demonstrated racketeering with uses of the Manchester PAL, the San Juan Center, people with CCSU are involved with that. All the Connecticut gyms, everyone speaking to others as being involved. Criminal uses of judges pretend they have integrity offensively. They're already involved with the area racketeering acts. They're with their investigators pretending to perceive things, pretending to record things to hide what's actually recorded. They're actually recorded natures too. See, criminal and citizen's nature. See, we have the bar itself recorded criminally foreign influence. We have rights to have our nation's attorney general and other nations equivalent come sweep. Fake branches clear. Let's find the seed. Prepare. These are not means. One way redeems. We plague to seize. Campus Marcius calls you through the breeze. One way alone can fight, and yet I'll win. And that's the way that brings the means at best. So I'll begin. What blocks that? Those crazy takes on Islam, the crazy counters, they're in collusion. They're blocking radical Islam. They're pretending to be for radical Islam. Fake sides of Trinity, worse than obfuscated. Nothing that is value is dual alone. One identity is making more temporary / lasting identities as the identity of space / existence in that sequence, per science, most probably. This is science using the value G, God, distinct as a variable when we're not sure about what is right or wrong in relationship to 5 identities of sequence nature and the value of them. And the value of that to it as the value of itself, its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that, which affects the order of everything. This is smaller than the smallest thing, while it is the identity distinctly and not distinctly itself, bigger than size. This is an identity of 2 identities of possession on both sides of each value. Each value as itself has this coming to and from itself, while it is with and as itself, ourselves, in relationship to the identity that we are grouped and we are species together at the same time as complete nature, semi-nature, as positive or negative, simultaneous nature, and simultaneous nature's relationship to itself. Why is that important? Well, forever's identity of relationship to itself and the value of that per science. It has a radical relationship to five identities of sequence nature, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. So it is, and sequentially. So it is invisible but still discernible. Boxing. This is the video. Please give me a response in writing and get a response from the news because they're preventing me free speech by offensively having stolen my voice and others to their live progression cover up racketeering acts of juxtaposed natures with their little fake news articles. And that was with a principal sex offender they forced not told on with other ones then and now. They also lied about what is actually recorded over wires with that, what is actually recorded online with that. They also invested our Coast Guard. They invested various courts and their family members in drug cliques and rolls with houses in my area, with racketeering with a Joshua Julian, and with a principal sex offender with them with Facebook page crimes, and with in out court of crimes, also with two Mendes police through time with identity thefts, racketeering with police equipment, with child sex offenders, identity thefts, pretending I had a conversation ever, even a sentence with this older Eric Mendez. Never was rude to him. He pretended I had a conversation with him, put me in a quotes and put the name of police equipment. He's recorded with his brother in out of New Britain Superior Court, in out of Weatherfield, the police department, racketeering acts since they were kids, and people tied to them with evidence racketeering, identity thefts, human trafficking acts that WFSB is also involved with. That's what that is, attaching people to fake locations, fake words with them, fake ties to other people, fake ties to doctors. They pretend I had ties to doctors as a kid and as an adult that never were, forging names, switching names. They got away with it because 3 times, a whole bunch of ways they got away with it. A whole bunch of people with Church Street involved with racketeering acts that were first involved with racketeering on and off Trinity College, on and off CCSU, with grammar schools, with middle school and with high school, and connected criminally exploited ways through criminal foreign influence in my town through time. Whole bunch of juxtaposed uses of overt criminal enterprises. So where and as and how, when people act with criminal enterprises and then they're responded to, they're pretending that's just because they influence that. But it's not that just that. Those people are also confessed, recorded, and demonstrated involve racketeering categorically and sequentially with overt criminal enterprises and with the private associated with undercover associated with them anyway, associated with this Dillon family, associated with this Kerr family, associated with their neighbors on Meadowgate, a church near there, a Justa Klavinskis, a Lucinda. I don't know her last name. I don't want to say the wrong last name again. There's a Lucinda and a Justin recorded, confessed, demonstrated they have their kids involved with this. Prosecutors have their kids involved with them, with racketeering on and off Trinity College, on and off CCSU, with people involved with them racketeering with databases when I was a kid. Mail crime, wire crimes, their roles with all along that route, and people with all the racketeering on Church Street, with the houses in my area tied to it. And as the people involved racketeering with, those are also people racketeering with federal criminals associated as federal criminal co-defendants of former director of the FBI in a 2006 case. Also further roles with racketeering in other acts in other cases with them and leading up to it. Racketeering acts, uses of database racketeering, their roles with drug racketeering, formal and other, identity thefts and frauds. Through time racketeering with overt criminal enterprises, like with the same grammar school with the principal sex offender, Joshua Julian, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, spreading lies with them, also inclusion with courts to have a deposition where they were pretending not to have realized that things had been proven that were already proven. In the deposition, spoken right into the deposition, Then they say, "Oh, you didn't know that would prove it." No. This is former director of the FBI was a defendant in a tied case slash S that was going on at the time of my father's death. They also pretend passions and emotions in relationship to that, because I'm not speaking about the things in those cases. Those people involved with that are involved with racketeering acts with families that went to schools that I went to, involved with my town's police chief's family and his extended family member, racketeering with DACA with them, with untimely deaths, with murder spots, real or made up, on off CCSU. Because they also have the training of people on off campuses involved with the racketeering of judges and of prosecutors with their uses of CCSU and of Trinity College and of Goodwin Park Golf Course, of that gravestone place in the middle of the street between that with and Cedar Hill Cemetery with where they buried J.P. Morgan, who had to loan money to the federal government to fight in the world wars because we still weren't free. This was still entrenched here since before the founding parents of our nations, not just America's, but every modern nation. People pretend physical delusions with power and with might through generations because we have like uses of, they pretend like, oh, Mao Zedong had all this, someone on Reddit said, like, for example, Muppets is like the same thing. Mao Zedong, he was a dictator. How could he not have free speech? Because states and areas are criminally foreign influence styles of logic racketeering. Evil people pretending other. We're victims, but victim predators. How could he have free speech? We have nations individually grouped together sick. There was slavery entrenched here. And you're going to complain about Mao Zedong because you're a victim predator. Americans. You came through criminally foreign influence schools. Other nations, same thing. Modern nations are in an identity of negative value nature progression. We have lost the American Revolution. We never won the right to free speech. We have recorded a torture method that American history is really about. Not allowed free speech, not allowed science. Other is pretended by having identities of sciences maintained other. Who's gonna they offensively maintain and needed hid through other motivations nature needed. We have a guy from a math guy and his wife associated with teaching schools, and then also with the CCSU associated with his son, associated with Mike Pandoff, also associated with boxing gyms. Their roles with identity thefts, fraud, sequence racketeering, with a Joshua Julian, a Joshua Stryker, a Joshua Schumack, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with people at the end of the Burn Turnpike that are involved with the Trinity College. Also, with a whole bunch of other people tied to the house slash sex in my area, involved with them when their extended family members further than and out with the principal sex offenders campus. If you call on the phone to complain about what is actually recorded, they're going to make up things, and then they're going to attach you and the kids and the parents to more lies. WFSB has been covering lie progressions by spreading lies and rumors through little kids. Also with doctors on and off the campus, and with I think one moved, but they're people within the Institute of Living are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with houses next to the schools, involved with them with drug crimes. Also, where they have the rights to be involved with stuff like that per laws, but they do it, use it criminally where they don't have the right for it. And that's the only reason those rights are standing. They don't have those rights. They're criminally foreign influenced, criminal assistance nature, criminally legalized. That's recorded. So we have to have mandated law followed. We have to have them down. I'll gather around vaccines. So enjoy this video. You should take the time for it. It is more important than an election because that's democracy criminally foreign influence. That's democracy already used remote. Weathersfield town offices and the church locations and other voting locations are already criminally involved with this, involved with preventing mandated law. uses of each fact sheet nature, strengths and weaknesses, to keep them needing to hide what they use it for. Like the old ladies, associated with the voting spots, the voting, racketeering, election crimes, other natures of it, where they have the judges pretending to be about against what they're for, which is elections racketeering, racketeering with the sheriffs, racketeering with the with the other branches already, worse than racketeering. Originally, still worse than witch trials, sick natures, incapable of defending themselves, and of blaming and of countering the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures like like predicate acts, the ones associated with the mail crime, wire crimes, acts and methods associated with New Britain Superior Court, with dozens of people I never had a conversation with, all exceptions recorded having been criminally exploited, and then that criminally hid. So get them onto paper now. And let's get a response, because we need the rest of the schools in city and intercities further cleaned up, with this Scalora family further intercities involved with the racketeering, with the schools, with identity thefts, interstates, further with with the World Trade Center racketeering, with the roles with the court next to it, in interstate courts, Justice Department racketeering method that also has the counters to Justice Department racketeering involved, with fake sides, with the racketeering of the Justice Department. We have all kinds of people associated with Connecticut forensics and legal and criminal, overtly criminal body dumping spots, with the same house on my street /S, associated with the racketeering acts at the colleges and universities I went to, and not, even though they didn't go there. Now the people they know that are involved with this, with them, went there. And these are also people, former director of the FBI, had co-defendants with a daughter in my school, that lived down the street from a kid who lived in another town, but they put him in my school. Eric Jensen, recorded, confessed, demonstrated also racketeering uses, roles with evidence racketeering, identity thefts against my family, identity theft roles in the form of evidence racketeering, with judges, with courts, retired and standing people associated with them, intercities, intercampuses of each age, because they're keeping the racketeering that they're making self-valued, blamed on other things other than themselves by the little grammar school kids. They're connecting that to life progressions that make that self-value. With the 2 years they're in the middle school, on and off campus, in relation to sequence racketeering. They're keeping used remote each location, area, and state, originally and still. All we need is science and free speech. No one must teach. So get me one name in sequence, and let's get a response, because we have Connecticut media also involved with these worse than just interstates racketeering with the national news, and they're insulated, and they're recorded, demonstrated. They pretend passions and emotions while they're preventing mandated law at the same time already having been. So there's no way to counter. They're racketeering with the interbranch that make up things with them distinctly and non-distinctly too, simultaneously. They're kept as that nature of volume needing to do that by a method that American history is really about. It's not complicated, just extensive. Just needs to counter how they prevent mandated law, how they pretend other offensively. Now they're a Lincoln Town Car that is also recorded, involved with how they have directors and people that work for directors, and they have the theater, the talent people involved with racketeering, also with ad companies, with lawyers involved with the racketeering, with the judges and with the police corps, with each branch of government. We're gonna learn about how they're really manifest. I tell it best, boxings. Yes.